Shock Piece: The Search for Freedom, a novel by C. Nguyen. Chapter 37. $1 Hyde Park and Dimmick's Bookstore. 1979. Here, $1 for you, Trin. Mother gave her a crispy $1 note, its edge stained with cooking oil from her fingers. Thank you, Mother. Trin beamed with pleasure, holding the note tightly in her hands. She could not wait to get out of the small, crowded caravan and run to Dimmick's bookstore and spend her $1 note. And this is for you too, Luke. Mother also gave her brother the same. Ready to bolt away, both glanced at each other and gave out silent signals. They had been inside the small caravan for the whole morning, busily helping their mother, handing out boxes of Vietnamese fried rice and cups of spring rolls through the caravan's window. The caravan parked on a pedestrian walkway near the famous Archibald Memorial Fountain of Hyde Park, sculptured by Sicard, a French artist, to commemorate the association between Australia and France in the First World War. The fountain became their second favorite place in Hyde Park whenever they were helping their mother with her food stall. Their most favorite place remained Dimmick's, the giant bookstore on George Street, Sydney, even if they could not pronounce its name properly in those days. Once a week, they were given $1 for helping Mother, and they could not wait to spend it on books. You two can have a break now, G said, releasing them from their duty at seeing their eagerness clearly shown. Hooray! Thanks, Mother, both chorused and darted out of the van swiftly. Let's go, Luke, Trin shouted. Yeah, let's go, Luke echoed. Then both ran to Dimmick's in a hurry before their allowable break time finished. The giant bookstore in those days was always crowded with readers, staying around reading books or browsing the aisles, fingering one item after another. Trin loved being in there. She felt so much at home. There were walls and walls of beautiful books in every category on display for her to touch and admire. At first, she did not dare to take them off the shelves, but walked slowly around them, looking at them, longing for a feel. Stacks of books were neatly exhibited that astounded her. There were rows of the adventures of Tintin by Herr, their beloved cartoon character from back home, in colorful illustrations. Trin stood there, mesmerized. Then one day her brother approached from behind and whispered, "Take it down. You know you can take them down and look at them freely without being asked to purchase them." "Really? Are you sure?" Trin was surprised. "You're not pulling my leg, are you?" Her brother was renowned for playing practical jokes on her many times in the past, and it was best to be careful. "Yep, believe me. I saw many of them doing the same, taking books off the shelves, reading them and then putting them back on, and walking out of here without anyone stopping them or asking them to purchase anything," Luke reassured, nodding his head toward the patrons in the bookstore. "See them there?" Trin was glad that her brother had been observant, and she was eager to take her first Tintin book off the shelf, Explorers on the Moon, and absorbing in it fully for the entire lunch break. That began their frequent trips to Dimmick's every time they were around this part of town. Then the brother and sister's collection of Tintin books materialized from $1 bonus on Saturday or Sunday working with Mother. "Look, it costs 99 cents, Luke," Trin said. "Yeah, we can afford to buy it. Shall we?" Trin hesitated. "Why not? We still have $1.01 left. We can get a burger, an ice cream, and a can of cola for $1. Luke said. "Okay, I'll go there and pay. Here's your change, thank you." The cashier gave them a 1-cent change. They had spent their whole $1 a week extravagantly as rich kids, accumulating the books one by one until all the titles sitting proudly on their desk. After their joined cartoon collection, Trin went on saving her money for her next purchase. Meanwhile, she continued standing in the aisle reading Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell, her first novel in Australia, whenever she was at the bookstore. It was several months before she had saved enough to purchase it together with an English to English Oxford dictionary. Drin had given up using her English to Vietnamese dictionary as the explanation in the entries confused her even more with the complication and contrast of the English and Vietnamese language. Even though the thickness of the novel, almost 500 pages, was intimidating to her English vocabulary and grammar at that time, Drin had been determined to get it. Having the book in her possession, she had spent hours and hours reading word by word, with a notebook and a pencil, on the other hand, jotting down each vocabulary and its meaning in her quest of literature reading. By the time Drin reached the end of the book, all the pages were thumbed many times over. She had to return to the pages after trying to understand the meaning of each word, patching up the phrases. The cover was almost torn apart. The book and its film with Vivian Leigh and Clark Gable remained in her memories everlasting images of the American Civil War and its brutality until now. Their anticipation of the weekends to go to the Archibald Fountain and Dimmick's bookstore was their highlight every week, even if they had to help Mother most of the time with her caravan food store. $1 for a container of fried rice or 3 spring rolls, the handwritten sign hanging on the front of their counter read. That was a huge step for Mother to take, venturing out in a food store, considering her timid nature. After a few months of settling in with a new life, Mother was quick to start her business venture with one of her old friends, Auntie Na. Everyone in the family all gave her a hand. Back then, it was genuinely considered everyone's business and responsibility, helping with the family without thinking of rewards or wages. G was as excited as all of them were. Their first interaction with the whole new world of Sydney and its residents was through a brand new endeavor. Auntie Na had managed to get a license selling food in Hyde Park and had given Mother a loan to buy an old caravan together. She had come to Australia as an exchange student well before the war ended and had been granted a permanent resident status after the Republic of South Vietnam was abolished on the world map. When all paperwork had been arranged and the caravan was scrubbed clean, ready for business in the following week, they were all in euphoria. Afterward, their weekend was full of activities. Starting on Friday, they had to prepare everything for the 2-day training in the park. The night before, for the spring rolls, they had to roll them in improvised phyllo pastry ready for frying on trading days. For the fried rice, the dicing of carrots, ham, onions, and spring onions were done. The final steps were completed inside the caravan during business hours. The excitement continued when they were all piling up into an old, bright Canary 4-door Datsun 180B on early Saturday mornings before dawn and arriving to the park without a scratch. All 8 of them emerged out of the car refreshed and chirpy as innocently as only refugees could be, as if that was a perfectly normal thing to do. Those days, seat belts had not been in effect. Not many police patrols were on the roads, and refugees were like matchsticks, in that as many as 8 could all fit in a sedan easily. Not to mention that sometimes they had to stow the caravan from its parking place to the park if Auntie Na was late. It was amazing the Datsun was able to manage its task miraculously. It was a good old, reliable Datsun 180B or 200B that the refugees loved so much. Each family had at least one in their lifetime in Australia back then. Hiccups were sometimes encountered. Then, they all had to push and shove the heavy encumbrance caravan by foot with the Datsun in front when its machine refused to cooperate. But they were all happy to do it, and they sailed through the challenge as their boat had passed over the small storms, and they climbed over a road hump one at a time. Business would be open as usual, regardless of any hiccups, and everyone had his or her task throughout the day. It was always hectic. Hurry up, where are the spring rolls? Customers are waiting. Auntie Na would shout over the noise in Vietnamese. Don't just stand there, Luke, Mother would say. Pick up the spring rolls and put them in cups, son. Okay, Luke replied, reluctantly turning to his task and picking up the spring rolls by chopsticks. He was watching the throng through the caravan's window with fascination. V would try to speed up her frying, and baskets of hot spring rolls would arrive for Trin and Luke to hand out to Auntie Na in cups of 3. Hey, pick yours at your side, Luke, Trin protested. They were always in competition, comparing which had done more than the other. Hey, speak for yourself, Cheetah. Luke was not pleased. More, quickly, Auntie Na urged. And stop arguing, children. More spring rolls, V, Trin pushed. I only have one pair of hands, V would shout back, counter-attacking the pressure coming her way. Get Kim to help you there, Mother would command, while busily frying rice in a large square electric pan. Fried rice, more fried rice quickly, there was more shouting. Put more rice in the electric cooker, Trin. We need them fast. The lunch peak hours were always the worst for those inexperienced kitchen hands and cooks in the crowded caravan. Excuse me, I think the spring rolls are uncooked. Occasional complaints would come back at them, with the still raw meat inside. Oh, sorry, so sorry, let's change them for you. Please wait, Auntie Na would skillfully reply. Then she would shout toward the back in Vietnamese. Slow down, everyone. Make sure the meat is cooked, V. See, you asked me to hurry up. Now you want me to slow down, V accused. However, the rice escaped criticism most of the time, even though in their haste it was half-cooked as well. But no one had noticed or thought that was the way Vietnamese fried rice was supposed to be. In any case, Auntie Na came to their rescue every time in dealing with customers' complaints. Her English was 100 miles ahead of them, newly arrived refugees. They all looked up to her as their most trusted guide and often listened with deep respectful awe when she started her conversation to English-speaking people. I wish one day I can speak like that, Drin told Kim. If one day I can whisper in English rather than speak loudly with difficulty every word, then I can classify myself as an Australian, she declared with conviction, believing her statement wholeheartedly, as if mastering the language would be the final step in the transformation of her whole being. To her at that time, and perhaps until today, speaking English was a vast, mystifying process. All the twists and turns of the tip of her tongue in the thin and 13th words caused her problem, and the phonetic accent of the English vocabulary was much in contrast to her Vietnamese monosyllabic and clearly pitched words. She often stressed on a wrong vowel or spoke in a monotone, and it would end in the frustration that no one would understand her. I don't get it. Why can't they understand me? I thought I was speaking very clearly, Drin would often complain to her sister, still very upset at the recent incidents. I asked the man I would like to buy some vegetables, please. Instead of stressing the first veg, she had tried to pronounce it monosyllabically as vegetables, and of course it was totally strange, non-existent English word. Then he said, I beg your pardon, what would you like to have? A fruit vendor would ask, trying to be helpful. Drin was retelling her story. Some vegetables, please, she repeated, and seeing a puzzled expression on the fruit vendor's face, she would add, any will do. Drin would feel puzzled as much as he did. I don't think I have what you asked, sorry. He shook his head and shrugged his shoulders, unable to decipher her request. By now, Drin would get angry with herself and the fruit vendor and feel awkward by her inability to get a simple message across. Clearly, he refused to understand, she concluded. Yeah, they do not understand our English. I often have to repeat, I wonder why. Kim agreed, readily shaking her head. You're not the only one, dear. Don't worry about it. I went to the supermarket today asking an assistant for an air freshener, and I had a similar reaction, Trin. It was Kim's turn. Do you have a lavender air freshener? Kim was bold enough to make her query. The assistant pondered for a few minutes, then asked again. Say it again. A lavender air freshener, Kim said clearly, enunciating each syllable very proudly. The assistant's brows knitted together for a little while, then repeated her request with a smile on his face. Do you mean a lavender air freshener? Yes, of course, a lavender air freshener. Thank you. Kim was glad to get what she wanted in the end. Bugger if it was lavender or lavender. They were all the same to her, and they were spelled exactly the same anyhow. Even her favorite bookstore, Dimmick's, gave her the trouble of pronouncing it right. Pointing and gesticulating was their main tool in complementing their lack of language skill. Juan got home one day and told everyone how he got his chook by flapping his arms about and clucking as a hen at the butcher. His friend would laugh and said, "Nah, that's easy. It's how you get eggs that's much more complicated." How? Drin was interested. In those days, not many things were on display, when a customer would just pick up and pay for whatever he or she wanted at the cashier. They had to ask for the items, and it was always their dilemma in shopping for their groceries and meat if they did not want to employ an interpreter to go along, as of course the names of the items often were not in their head. Go get me an iced coffee and I'll tell you, Tu ordered, enjoying his chance of having her attention. You, an exploiter of labor, Drin declared before walking inside and brewing Tu a cup of coffee. Here's how you do it. Watch me. Tu used a slender teaspoon to stir his coffee before gulping in large mouthfuls. Then he stood up, flapping his arms and clucking about as a hen, while at the same time bending in half and pointing his fingers to his bottom, mimicking the sound. Foot foot, cluck cluck, foot foot. The whole group would laugh uproariously with his ingenuity of gesticulation. Lucky that you went into the right store. They might bring out chicken manure if you're not careful. Their caravan food stall and Hyde Park adventure lasted half a year, providing enough money for Mother to contemplate the idea of moving out of East Hills Barrack. Still, Drin remembered clearly the day Mother opened her first savings account in order to receive money from the government welfare support. Nervous and timid, she was queuing in line at the main office, still very much in awe from the experience with the authority and their arrogance back home. The Australian bank clerk was sitting on the desk with the necessary paperwork. His foreign look did not help one bit, even though the interpreter was sitting next to him. Please give me your ID and I will help you fill out the forms, but you have to make a small deposit to open your account, Mrs. G, the interpreter instructed. G gave the interpreter her refugee permanent resident paper, with her fingerprints imprinted, as her sole ID at that time. Then she was more nervous looking at them. A small deposit, please, Mrs. G, the interpreter urged. G was quite embarrassed. Oh, but I've got nothing to give you. Just a small deposit will do. It's a procedure to get your account running, the interpreter coaxed, thinking that G did not want to pass on her cash same as many others who had had a bad experience with their loss before. G stammered, I know, but $1 or $2 will do. The interpreter was losing patience. I don't even have that, I'm sorry. Eventually, G had to admit the truth. Her face reddened. The interpreter was helpful, seeing that G did indeed have no money. Oh, okay. Can you borrow from somebody? Your welfare support will be deposited into your account after a deduction from the expense at the hostel in the next few weeks, Mrs. G. Oh, thank you. Yes, I guess I can try, of course. G was relieved to find a way out of her dilemma that in her embarrassment she could not think of the solution. G hated to have to borrow if she could not repay. Kim, Drin, quick, run around and ask anyone that we know for $1 or $2 for me, please, children. Tell them that I will repay them as soon as the welfare check comes. Please hurry, kids. At last, Mother had her dollar to open her first savings account. She had borrowed from a friend of the family, and now she was operating her first business venture in Hyde Park, selling Vietnamese fried rice and spring rolls, getting her dollar to work. To save on cost, Mother V, Kim, and Drin used to go to Flemington Market by train to buy the necessary ingredients. They walked a long distance of 2 kilometers from East Hills Station to the hostel, carrying large bags of carrots, onions, and meat to East Hills Barrack at Voyager Point. It was always a big ordeal for the women. Sometimes Juan and Luke also came along. They divided the carrots, onions, meat, eggs, and rice into smaller bags, and the entourage of strange looking people parading the streets caused a stir among the locals. Look at them, some were pointing at the group, fascinated by the new batch of refugees recently arrived from Asia and who looked and acted so odd in everything. They are using umbrellas. How peculiar. Yeah, funny kind of people. How could they use umbrellas in this kind of weather? Silly. Where are they from? Martians? Aliens? It was sunny and warm in an early summer day in December, the kind of weather that Australians used to love to sunbathe in the era of undetected sun damage to the skin. Looking at them shielding their faces and bodies from the sun seemed very weird to the locals. Drin knew they were uncharacteristic and odd in every which way and often wished if she could blend in without being taunted. How was it possible, she often asked herself. She wished if it could be done effortlessly by peeling off her idiosyncrasies layer by layer to make her appearance normal in their eyes. They're laughing at us, Kim. She nudged her sister and whispered in her language, glancing at the girls their age standing at the station, afraid they might overhear their conversation. She did not know that the sound of her language was odd too. But when they talked in Vietnamese, heads turned toward them and sometimes ridicules came along. Ching chong, ding dong. She often heard that mocking tune directed back at them and was shy of not knowing how to reply in English. She thought she was very proud of her mother tongue, and Vietnamese language was the core of her origin. What was wrong with it now that they made her feel ashamed of speaking it? Why are they taunting us like that? She asked V. Drin often had many whys to ask her sisters. Because we came from a different background, Drin. We're from the East, and they're from the West. Our cultures are many oceans apart. Our features are oriental, with slanted almond-shaped eyes, jet black straight hair, golden skin, and not with large blue eyes, curly blonde hair, and white skin. We are standing out in the crowd. Our philosophy, art, religion, principles, concepts, and values are like chalk and cheese to theirs. We are simply different. How different? Drin was puzzled. She did not think that her coming to a foreign country could bring so many obstacles in every direction. To start with, our religion is based on Buddhism and theirs on Christianity. The list is endless. We believe in reincarnation and life is a journey for us. Everything happens for a reason. Things come around and you reap what you sow. Our future is based on what we do today. Their future is unknown and predetermined by God, and it has nothing to do with their deeds. We tend to coexist in a family environment or as a whole, and they believe strongly in individualism. We are introverted and they are extroverted. We tend to wait for things to happen. They are acting to make things happen. Heaven and earth, we tend to think of that as an eternal recurrence. For the Christians, they tend to think of themselves as elements in the universe. Their existence is with the service to their God or material matters to make life better, and everything has its beginning and its end. There are weaknesses and values in both cultures, I think. However, as we are mystifying to them as they are to us, that makes us a threat to them in every way. People tend to be nervous of the unknown. When they could not understand the other party's behavioral patterns, then they're incomprehensible. Simple as that, I think. Just make sure that we do not erect a wall shielding or isolating us from them. Then they will see that we are not impenetrable as they think we are now. Will they be able to understand us if we try to explain to them one thing at a time? As we are trying our best to understand them every day now, aren't we? It's not easy for us too, Trin asked her sister. Yes, it's that way because we are immigrants. We are new arrivals. It's their homeland, Trin. I'm sure if it's the other way around, we would behave similarly. Don't be too upset. They'll come to accept us and our philosophies if our behaviors are not invasive to their cultures. Time will tell. Be patient and be good. Vi smiled at her last phrase. We'll let them understand us.